So, Joe, the conversation we're having today, you and I have actually already had offline, which is why I wanted to bring it online because I thought it was a helpful conversation. And I actually wrote a newsletter blurb about it in our one of our newsletters a couple weeks ago. But I was looking at LinkedIn uh, a couple weeks ago, and a gal that I used to work with, we're the same age, we're buddies. She posted this thing on LinkedIn, and it was like she just received this new round of funding. She just hired her 10th employee, and her comment section was just blowing up. And there are emojis, and now that LinkedIn has gifts, like there were gifts that were like, "Whoa, this is so celebratory." And I had a really weird reaction, and that was I was kind of envious. But it's weird because I don't want that. I don't want funding. I don't want a team. I want to tuck my kids into bed at night. I want to bake a friend an enchilada casserole for her newborn baby. I get
I mean, a newborn
when
baby's
it's
eating an enchilada casserole. Wait a minute.
not for her newborn baby, for the family. While I'm like after I put in some work and then I'll take a break and do that and do more work. I want all those things, but nobody celebrates those things. And it's weird because I feel like in corporate, you work, 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 and then you get the promotion or the recognition. And nobody gives you an applause for going to a few meetings, baking a casserole, and then getting head down work done. Like nobody's like, "Oh, that's great. Congratulations." But that to me is what the success is. And at first I was like, "Am I a hypocrite?" And I don't think so. I think there are two legitimate parts of a person in conflict: the ego that wants to be seen, validated, ranked, and then your values, where people for solopreneurs want autonomy, time, and peace. And it's a really weird feeling when those two are at odds with each other. Have you ever felt that way?
Yeah, just a few times in my
Today.
typical month. Yeah, you know, it resonates with me so much because having gone through. I mean, I went through the dot-com boom, right? And I was working on a startup that I started right before the internet became a thing, and the internet killed my startup. And I was watching these people become millionaires because they jumped on the internet wagon. And here I was trying to do something that didn't use the internet, and the internet was killing me because people weren't putting money into what I was doing. So, yeah, I felt it deeply then, and I've felt it many times since. And it's funny you talk about that whole raising money thing, and I remember seeing people on LinkedIn raising venture capital and celebrating. Oh yeah, I just raised $10 million, blah blah blah. And I remember at one point with my trade area system startup, we went through this process of trying to raise venture capital. We thought that was a good play, and at one point it looked like we were going to get it. And I was the CEO, and I had a dream one night that I was sitting there. And I was at the head of this long conference table, and there were all these people. Like it seemed to go on not forever, but really far. And these all were my new hires and existing hires and all the people that worked for me. And I was there to kind of give them instructions as to how to go forward spending this money that we had raised. And it was kind of a nightmare. It was kind of a nightmare. And I realized I didn't want that. I didn't want to scale in that way because it was like, as soon as you take that money, you're on the hook. You got to make it fly. We were bootstrapping until then. It was hard, but it was kind of on us and it was kind of on our time frame. Now you got somebody with a clock. So yeah, I get this idea of thinking you want something, feeling envious, and yet going, really, I don't want that. In the society, we celebrate these things. And when you see other people celebrating, you kind of want to join in. Like I'm not really a soccer fan, but especially if you're in one of the countries where soccer's huge and the World Cup is going on, and you want to celebrate with them because it's just
Yeah.
they're celebrating. You want to join in and you want to be part of it, and it's like it's human nature.
Yeah. Well, and I think solopreneurs are especially vulnerable because I think this is what I put in the newsletter. The analogy is you opted out of the scoreboard, but the scoreboard is still visible and part of you still keeps the score. And I think that's the best way to think about it. But I just want listeners to know, like, wanting recognition doesn't mean you made the wrong choice. Like you were saying, I think that's just like that's innate. You want to be a part of the celebration. And the ego isn't the villain. I think it's just a signal. Like there's that recognition hunger that often points to real unmet need, which would be like meeting, contribution, being valued. And I think people need to just do a values check in with that. Like it again, it's what they have from the past, but does it align with their values currently? Right? Like I think that that's really important for people to just have regular check-ins.
Yeah, you gotta pull yourself back and say, "Hey, I've chosen not to do this. I've chosen to have some control over my life because I've seen it, with the, family members who have raised lots of venture capital, and you stop owning your life. It's kind of
Yeah.
like working a really high-powered, high-paid one of these high-paid jobs where when the CEO says jump, you say how high, and
Yeah.
sure, it's a perfectly valid, legitimate path to take in life, but it's not one that certainly I would never choose it. And
And I think you need yeah. I think you need to distinguish like healthy pride. Like it needs to go from I need others to rank me highly to I did good work that I'm proud of today. And I think, and we talk about this all the time, you need to return to your why. Like why you chose life first. Freedom, the presence, the sustainability. Nobody will give you a pat on the back necessarily for those things, but that's what you want. And I think the hard question people have to ask is, would you actually trade back the freedom for the recognition? And if for I know for me, it's no. But if it's yes, then maybe you should not be doing a life first business.
right, go be an entrepreneur and get some seed capital and build an empire. It's a
Yeah.
legitimate way to go. Absolutely.
And freedom is a form of success that's invisible but to the audience, but I think it's so obvious in your daily life. Like nobody's gonna give me LinkedIn emojis, but it's fun to take my kid to a swim lesson at 10:45 on a Thursday and see
You
the
know,
people like that would.
what if I'm just making me think here. So what if we started posting on LinkedIn like those kinds of wins with a life first hashtag and see what happens?
Did you see my grocery store one?
No, I've been heads down the last couple of days.
I posted one and I was like, I'm at a grocery store at 2 p.m. and it was an empty grocery store. And I was like, for some people, success is $1,000,000. For me, it's going to a grocery store without any crowds.
So you did it already. Well,
Win.
maybe we should start doing that and see if we
Yeah.
can get some people to celebrate.
Yeah. Or like Monday moment. Like, we're going to think of an alliterative
Hashtag life
phrase.
first or life
Yes,
first
that's better.
business. Um, or like hashtag life first then business. I don't know, but we'll think about
Yeah,
that. But
something.
but
Listeners, if you have an idea, let us know. But I think moral of the story, you don't have to kill the ego. You just have to redirect it. You have to find recognition that doesn't cost your freedom. And that could even be like find a small community that sees your work, reward yourself with client outcomes. Maybe it's mentoring a person to give you that validation. I think it's okay to have an ego. It's just not okay for it to compare it to things you wanted in the past.
last week I had to take every day from Monday through Friday. I had to carve 3 hours out of the day to drive my granddaughter to a soccer camp that we signed her up for because she came out from Vegas and stayed with us and needed something to do during the week because the whole family was here, but people were working. And I could do that. I mean, it wasn't as productive a week as I've had other weeks, but I was able to do that because I don't have a boss telling me I can't, and I don't have a situation that is so stressful that I couldn't take that time. And, let's face it, when you got a teenager, driving in a car is a really great way to connect.
Yeah.
It really is a fantastic way to communicate because for some reason, driving in a car opens things up. And I was just blessed to do that. And like I said, if I put it on LinkedIn, I probably wouldn't get, a whole bunch of gifs and emojis, but, maybe I will.
Yeah. We could start directing people to George's post that he's doing right now. One of the contractors on our team, he's moving and he's posting his moving journey, but he's running his own business while moving. And you can't do that in corporate. I don't know how you can do that in general, but he's superhuman and can pull stuff like that off. But yeah, that's a great well, and it's okay. So Joe, that will be our challenge. We'll post on LinkedIn like some of the wins that aren't typical. But I also have a challenge for our listeners. And I think if you're running into this conundrum, you need to write down your own definition of recognition. Like what it looks like when it comes from a source that doesn't require you to sacrifice your freedom, whether that's a that's so cool that you can pick your friend up from the airport while they're flying in to visit for this awesome experience. My husband just had one of those. I ended up getting his friend, but it was cool that I was able to go get his friend from the airport so they can have this amazing experience. And um, they acknowledged that I could do that. I don't know, just little things like that where it's like not the big things, but just the little pats on the back, like, oh, it's cool that you're here right now and present.
Can I throw another strategy at you for this
Yes.
that might work?
Yeah.
It comes from a friend of mine who used to smoke 3 packs a day and quit cold turkey
Whoa.
years and years ago. And I said, "How did you do that?" And he said, "Well, I just imagined myself in the hospital with a terminal diagnosis of lung cancer." And I imagined what would I be thinking, and he said I would be thinking I wish I could go back in time and tell myself not to smoke. So I
Yeah,
did.
that's powerful. Wow.
And I said, interesting thinking. But, if you thought about, like, if you do something like me, getting to drive my granddaughter or whatever it is, spending time with your kids or doing something cool or whatever, and then go imagine your life if you were either, a super scaling entrepreneur or working in corporate and weren't able to do those things, how would that feel? I mean, maybe a little bit of thought experiments around that might drive some things home that we don't appreciate. And so you're not going to get any kudos from the masses maybe, but to think about your life in the context of how it would be different if you were doing things differently, maybe will make you appreciate the Life First business more. I don't know. It's just, I thought it was an interesting way to kind of think about
Yeah.
what could have been and rethink how you feel about life now.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, listeners, those are your marching orders. But listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. We are loving having these life first discussions. It's really making us reflect on our own values, how we want to approach things, and we have just loved hearing your stories and your feedback. It's just been a really fun, I don't want to say experiment, but it's just been a really fun journey to be experiencing all of this with you guys. So, if you know somebody that wants to start building a life first business, please send them to our show, have them listen to it. I subscribe to the show on any podcast platform, including YouTube, which definitely YouTube, because it's really fun to see those numbers continue to go up from a selfish standpoint. um, and don't forget to leave that 5-star review. It really helps us build more credibility, even more credibility, and spread the word to other Life First Solopreneurs. And we will see you next week on the Life First Solopreneur.